Hi, good afternoon. My name is Alana McLaughlin, and I am a naturopathic doctor currently practicing in El Paso, Texas. And I just wanted to get started on doing a few of these little video clips to provide some information. So I wanted to start with probably the number one component that I end up doing with pretty much everybody who comes to see me. If actually, I think probably everybody who comes in to see me, and that is starting with nutrition. Some people have already made tons of different changes and are looking at fine tuning their nutrition plan. And other people, we kind of start from square one with doing some different things like elimination, adding in more healthy foods, vegetables especially, and foods that are going to be nourishing and healing. So today's segment, I really want to focus on kind of a subset of women that I've been working with here in El Paso while training for a triathlon called the Mighty Mujer. So it's a female-centered triathlon here in El Paso. Great way for women to get together and train, which is how I've connected with the group here. However, these are not just specific for women training for a triathlon. There are going to be foundational changes to help overall improve health and address several different health concerns. So what I want to get started with is just kind of a symptom picture. Whether you're a man or woman, but I'm going to more reference women in general because there are things that I've been hearing quite a lot. And one of them is going to be the energy component. So feeling tired in the afternoon or even mid-morning, feeling kind of the crashes during the day with energy. A lot of times we also have some, fat that seems to be resistant either midsection or wherever your trouble region is. So I want to talk a little bit about that as well. Disrupted sleep, waking up in the middle of the night, and a big one is cravings, having afternoon cravings or different times during the day of things that, really aren't the best for us, but not knowing what to do otherwise. So I want to start with how I approach nutrition and what I've done for myself. First, it is definitely a process. It's not easy to do to change overnight, and some people can, but that often you still have the cravings and things like that. So you need a little bit more guidance. So I want to give just some tips to get everybody started on working on a nutrition plan that gives them the energy they need, whether that is just getting through your day, helping to keep our mood and energy stabilized when we're working with our children, or, even adding on that next component of doing something different, either physically, adding in more physical exercise, or, going that next step and training for something like a triathlon. And this is my first triathlon, so I also had to go through a little bit of process of making sure I was getting enough calories and things like that, and the proper type of calories. So a little bit background on where I would have people start. Depending on what your picture is looking like, if you're having a lot of gas, bloating, digestion, difficulties with different areas there, I generally look at a lot of elimination plans. So some of the most common things to eliminate, and I can speak to this one personally, is grains. I don't do well with grains. Some people are going to be fine, but if you are having some of those symptoms, I would give it a try, especially gluten is very inflammatory, which is in wheat. But otherwise, grains in general can just not quite sit well with certain people. So that is a big one. Other people, it's soy, some it's corn, things like that can be irritating. Dairy is another big one that digestively just doesn't do well, and therefore your body's taking the time to have to process that instead of getting the nutrition that we need to be able to move forward. So I'm not saying everybody needs to take these out, but if you're having some digestive problems, some of those are a good place to start. There's great programs out there online now. Whole30.com is a great resource I use quite a bit. It walks you through 30 days of eliminating kind of pretty much all processed foods, trying to get you onto, like it says, whole food, doing a 30-day trial, getting your system cleared out, and seeing how much better you feel by eating that way rather than grabbing something quick, processed from a box. Sometimes those are needed, But overall, we want to shift our nutrition. It's not about going onto a diet, it's about changing your nutrition and feeling better because of those changes. So after the elimination, I also consider adding in more good foods. And that part I really, really emphasize, especially if your digestion is doing pretty well, you don't get a lot of the gas and bloating or things like that, but you need more energy. Then I'm looking at more of the macronutrients, looking at how is our meal planning broken down by whole fat or by whole foods based on fat component, healthy fats, protein, and then carbohydrates, which can be through mostly vegetables and fruit. We can pretty much take out the grains if that's something you don't do well with. If you do, there are a few things I add in to help make those more sustainable to keep you full longer. So let's start with our healthy fats, because that is one of the most important to prevent, afternoon crashes or just the dips in energy. And one of the components that I definitely recommend starting with first thing in the morning. Every meal should have healthy fat, protein, and then carbohydrates through whatever your body does well with, whether it's doing it through vegetables or if you can tolerate some grains, doing it through that. But that might look like if you tend to be, do well with grains and you're doing bread or something like that in the morning, I would say making sure that you add in some kind of a healthy fat with that, which can be grass-fed butter if you do well with dairy, or adding things like avocado oil or whole avocado with that so that you're not just getting carbohydrate. Ideally, what I look for, if you're also working on digestion and energy, is starting the morning with something like last night's leftovers. So a common one for me, and that I've had a lot of people do really well with, is doing leftover ground meat from the night before, whether that's turkey or chicken, ground, the ground versions, or if you're doing well with a good quality of beef. Putting that in a pan and then dicing up some of your root vegetables for your starch. Beets are a great one, carrots, celery, adding in kind of whatever vegetables you might have, and then adding your greens, your dark leafy greens, spinach, kale, chard, some of those into the pan, and then adding a good dose of avocado oil to it. I use avocado oil a lot just because it doesn't have a very strong taste, and it has a pretty high smoke point, so that you're not going to worry about damaging that fat before you're putting it into your body, which then you have to deal with more damage, or inflammation is another word we use when we're talking about that. So you're looking in your pan, you've got your good serving of your dark leafy greens, you've got some carrots, some celery, spices as you like, and then your protein and fat coming from the avocado oil, and then your meat in there. And that is a good, strong breakfast to get you started during the day. And you'll notice that you don't get energy crashes mid-morning or those cravings for muffins or whatever is at the office that people have brought in. Then the second component, so that will stabilize your blood sugar. Then if you have a pretty fast metabolism, you've been working out more, and you need a little bit of a snack in the morning, we're again reaching for healthy fats with some protein. And then if there's usually a carbohydrate component just by the nature of the foods. So, for example, a handful of nuts with some dried fruit is a great snack generally. Healthy fat, protein, carbohydrate together that should get you through lunch to where you're not feeling hungry. The second area would be addressing lunch, though. If you're having afternoon crashes with energy, thinking of nutrition, look and see what kind of healthy fat you have with your lunch, and protein. Protein's generally a little bit easier. Even salads and things like that will have protein in them. But adding on, olive oil or avocado oil or coconut oil in your dressing or soup or whatever you're eating to help carry you through into the afternoon. So all throughout this, your dinner is going to be the same. Healthy fat and your protein as your base. And it can be non-animal if that is your preference and what your body does the best with. But just making sure you are getting that component in there. And then you'll notice throughout I'm saying healthy fats. So your avocado, nuts, seeds, If you do well with dairy, you can do grass-fed butter, grass-fed milk, things like that can be added in. A lot of people don't tolerate it well, but if it's raw and grass-fed, tend to do better. I also specify grass-fed because has a different profile for your omega fatty acids, has more omega-3 fatty acids, which are anti-inflammatory, versus your traditional or conventional dairy. Same thing with your traditional or conventional beef and whatnot, has more of an omega-6 profile, which is pro-inflammatory. So we're trying to reduce as much inflammation, and going through, if you're having bloating symptoms or whatnot, by boosting up the quality of your protein, and then decreasing the carbohydrates or whatever your food intolerance might be, you will notice probably pretty significantly within a few days that you just feel better. You lose weight around your waist. It wasn't really fat. It was more just bloating and inflammation. And then it's about sustaining that long term. So that'll be the nutritional segment, just to give you some ideas. And if this is of interest to you, send me an email and I can give you a handout that I made of just basics, ideas for your healthy fats, which ones are good, which fats should we be avoiding, some different protein sources and portion sizes, and then a breakdown of our fruits and vegetables, and then the grains for what serving sizes look like for some of those different components, as well as resources kind of specific for El Paso, but some of them, across the board, wherever you may be, if you found me and are somewhere else. So my email address is Dr. Alana McLaughlin, DrAlanamcLaughlin @gmail.com. And you can also find my website, guidedtrailsnaturalhealth.com, for more information and hopefully more of these videos after this first one. I hope this is helpful, and I'm hoping that some of you other Mighty Moo Hair triathletes are going to get your hands on this and help optimize some of your nutrition and get some of your questions answered. Thank you, and have a beautiful afternoon or day if you're getting to watch this in the early morning.